Correctional Investigator Dr. Ivan Zinger says Canada's prison system continues to serve Indigenous people poorly.
Being overrepresented in use of force, overrepresented in maximum security institution, overrepresented in structured intervention units, which is the former administrative segregation regime. They are more likely to also be labeled as gang members. They're more likely to self-injure. They're more likely to attempt suicide.
Indigenous people account for roughly 5% of the Canadian population, but they make up 32% of the federally incarcerated persons, and Indigenous women count for 50% of the female prison population. Zinger says things are only getting worse, not better, and Corrections Services Canada only has itself to blame, as the department has largely ignored recommendations made in previous reports, such as putting more resources into healing lodges.
Would be to transfer large amount of the Correctional Services budget to fund healing lodges and also provide opportunities for Indigenous communities to also supervise Indigenous people in their communities, and that hasn't, it simply hasn't happened.
And Zinger says overall money is not the problem. Corrections Canada has a ratio of 1.2 staff per prisoner, which is amongst the highest in the world. But Zinger says the department has continued to spend this money internally rather than reaching out to Indigenous communities to include them in programming.
And for an organization that spends so much money to have poor correctional outcome, especially for Indigenous prisoners as well as for Black prisoners, is a real shame and something that Canadians should be concerned with.
In a press release, Public Safety Canada Minister Marco Medicino says the government is taking some measures to address the high number of Indigenous people in Canada's prison system. These include legislation to address mandatory minimum sentences and the creation of a Deputy Commissioner of Indigenous Corrections. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.